Alright, welcome back to Nick Comic Corner Classics as Non-Classic. This is episode number 1311, 1381, and the 1275th double shot. Wow, 1275. What am I covering this one? Well, I kind of basically two finales in the way. The one I'm not going to do final thoughts on it because, well, I don't have the last trade yet. I'll do when I get the last trade for that one. But first up, it is a series that actually just ended last year. I'm kind of surprised they ended this one. Hawkman, Volume 4, Hawk's Eternal. Yes, this is actually one book I kind of felt this though should not have ended last year, but it did. It was good. All 29 issues were good. Basically, there are three story arcs. Hawk's Eternal is actually the second story arc in here. Yeah, this collection is 2025 Hawkman Volume 4. Yes, Hawk's Eternal is the second story arc in here. The first story arc deals with the Sky Tyrant. Yep, they deal with him. It's a Year of the Villain tie-in. And the story is called, if I can get to the actual... Yeah, this is one of those rare times they don't give the title of the story until like the very last page. It's known as Death's Doorway. We have basically Hawkwoman working with the Atom. Yes, the Atom, to look for Sky Tyrant, aka Hawkman. And along the way, she teams up with Adam Strange. Like, that's interesting. Yes, especially since he was involved with the death of the last Hawkman. So, why not? Eventually, of course, at the end of the story, well, they deal with Sky Tyrant and basically it's back normal. Also, when Hawkman reunites with Hawkwoman, there's a bit of confusion here about this character. I'll get to that. So, she slowly starts to remember her lives, even of course the Hawks are even found just in the final one. So basically, next story is her trying to remember her past lives. That's simple, the gist of it. And it's basically, it's a bit of a follow up to the very first major story arc of the run. Basically, when Brian Hitch was the artist of the book Deathbringer. Yep, where they go to a world when he was K-Tar Deathbringer, and he liberates the people there, and he basically trying to atone what he did, which is quite nice. The final one, the final story arc, takes up the last three issues of this book, is quite interesting. It's Hawkman having a rematch with Half-Set. You're probably thinking, who the heck is Half-Set? Well, in comics-wise, he's the one who made Carter Hall dress up like a hawk. Well, he's technically the one who, back in the original Hawkman Golden Age story, back in Flash Comics #1, he's the one responsible for basically conducting the ritual to basically unlock Carter Hall's memories of his previous reincarnations. That's what the character is. And Half-Set is an assassin who's basically meant to kill Hawkman and Hawkwoman over the course of thousands of years. Yes, thousands of years. And they do defeat him. And they kind of like kill him. But like, don't worry, he'll be back. And say, oh yeah, we'll deal with him at a certain point. But yeah, this was great. Loved it. Three fantastic story arcs. It's interesting though that with Sky Tower in the opening story arc of this book, which I think is like about 2 parts. I think Hawk's Eternal is like 4, and and then you have Final Justice. There are about 3 different artists in here. You have Fernando Presirin, Marco Castillo, and Marco Tesura. The cover art is by Mikel Janet. This book is fantastic, and I'm gonna give this book a 10 out of 10. Final thoughts on the Hawkman series by Ryan Venditti. I gotta say, this is a great book. Yes, I personally loved it. When this book came back a few years ago, I was so happy because this is actually one book I really wanted to see published while I was reading comics. Basically, a Hawkman title. And I got my wish. It was actually something I had basically hoped for at the end of 2017. Like, maybe we'll get a Hawkman title in 2018. And we did. Yep, we did. Got a Hawkman title. The last 29 issues and collecting these 4 books. Yep. But yeah, these are all 4 books. Volume 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yep, all 4 books that collect the Hawkman series by Venditti. Yeah, this is from the 4th volume for the series. Yes. If you're curious though about the early volumes of the series, like what was the volume published before this one? Savage Hawkman. Before that, well, technically the last book would be published between Savage Hawkman and this book was Death of Hawkman, which is done by I think it's by Mark Andrego and artwork was done by Aaron Lepsy. I will eventually get to that book eventually because it's really good. And I would figure though this book actually lasts longer. As far as I can tell, they refer to it as celebrated series. I don't think this was canceled due to low sales. No, I don't think so. Especially the series is good. When the series ended last year, I was scratching my head like, DC, why would you cancel a good book like Hawkman? A book that's good. Really good. Like, it felt as though, like, if you read this book, if you're not a traditional Hawkman fan, you would love this book. Why? Because he thoroughly details and explains about Hawkman's previous reincarnation. That's basically part of the character. Now, I have never reviewed, like, the first few volumes of this series. I've never reviewed Hawk World. I really wanted to review Hawk World at some point because Hawk World is a really good thing here. And here's the thing about Hawk Woman I should explain here. At the same time this book was coming out, we had Hawk Girl appear in the pages of Scott Snyder's Justice League. Which, even I think is quite strange due to the fact you have Hawk Girl here and you have Hawk Woman this title here. Yeah, that's where the confusion starts. Because, as far as I can tell, these two are two completely different people. But the last time I could think of, when I was reading some early Hawkman comics, where you had Hawkwoman and Hawk Girl appear in around the same period of time, was actually when Jeff Johns wrote Hawkman back in the early 2000s. I've read the book, I've never reviewed it, because the books are getting kind of expensive to get. Now, I'm hoping DC does bring back Hawkman because this was a great book. And I would definitely recommend bringing back Ryan Venditti because he clearly had a great idea what to do with the book. Yeah, like every issue he thoroughly planned out really well. Yes, he had to do a tie into Year of the Villain, but didn't ruin the series at all. No, as a matter of fact, I actually think they did a really good job with the series. I think that the tie-in actually worked. Yeah, apparently a past life for Hawkman was apparently being Hawkman Earth 3 known as Sky Tyrant. Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird. But hey, at least they resolved the storyline with that in just a few issues. Didn't take like 6-7 issues to resolve that. Yeah, that's one thing at least got praise of Venditti for this era. Seems like the Deathbringer, that was basically the first 12 issues of this book. Right after that, it's like one quick story arc about 6 issues. And then here is resolved, like, it doesn't take very long per se. No. Nothing here felt like it dragged. No, it didn't. And it's something interesting, though, that this is actually one of the two New Age hero titles that actually lasted more than a year. And that's shocking to say the least. Because this is the second longest title that was published on a New Age Heroes imprint. Well, it was basically published alongside DC Comics. The longest one was Terrifics at 33 issues. This is just a few issues less. I mean, if you want to think of like the third longest, it's probably Damage at 18 issues. Actually, no, it was Silencer. Damage was like 13 issues. Yep. Alright, moving on to a different book. We have Doctor Strange, Volume 4. Well, this is by Mark Waid. The Choice. This collects issues of Doctor Strange, Volume 5, issues 18 to 20, and the annual. Yes, the annual. Mostly for these issues, these are a series of one-shot issues. It seems like after doing a bunch of epic story arcs, you're like, excuse me, I guess Waid is like, okay, let's just have these few one-shot issues. Though these issues kind of in the way you kind of say it's basically set up for the relaunch of Doctor Strange as Doctor Strange Surgeon Supreme. Yep. Because one of the stories, basically, I think it's the opening story here, where he's basically trying to save a kid and his hands are still damaged. His hands have been damaged in the 60s. And then just by magic, his hands automatically heal themselves. They just basically get destroyed and then reform perfectly healed. Though it was later revealed the hands lost muscle memory in order to basically conjure spells. But he got the ability to be a surgeon again. Yep. Yeah. And this basically deals with his choice basically between like either continue with magic or does it continue with being a sorcerer. He continues doing both. And in the final issue, which is basically this, now you're probably thinking, does Kana chop off Doctor Strange's head in this issue? Does he try and kill him? Not really, no. It's actually just a complete accident that he just happened to be there. And this actually was the first appearance since the end of the previous story arc. She actually was absent with the Galactus story arc for some reason. Here, she's here just to basically just say, oh yeah, I'm still here. Though, here's kind of the strange thing, like, as soon as this volume wrapped up, she was never seen again. Yep. The annual is just basically just a backdoor pilot to the relaunch. It's just basically just a series of stories. Yeah. Where it just basically, we have Doctor Strange and implication stuff he did over the course of the past few issues. And the annual kind of in a way which the cover is basically the trades from the annual itself. Yeah, just a series of stories. And it's great though the fact they threw this annual in here because why not? Yeah. But as for the ending of this volume, it's actually pretty good. But it's not the end of the run just yet. No, not really. Yeah. It's, you know, it's a bit of horror stuff, but it's just great stuff here by Mark Waid. Yes. Now, the artwork in here is done by, I think, by one artist. Well, mostly one artist. You have Jesus Santos, this is issues 18 and 19. And Javier Pina, this is issue 20. Now, the annual is done by a couple different people, which is not done by Mark Waid. He does the main issues of Doctor Strange. The first story, Honolulu Evening, is done by Tina Howard, authored by Andy McDonald. The Treat, which second story, is done by Persik Patshore and Laut Kamar Surima. Yep. This book is great, and great setup for Surgeon Supreme, which is coming next. Give this book roughly a 9.5 out of 10. Now, normally, probably think, okay, would I deal with my final thoughts basically on this volume? No, not necessarily. There's still one more trade left, so expect to see that in the future. Along with the final trade for Doctor Strange and the Sorcerer Supreme. Yeah. But Doctor Strange is really good in the Mark Waid. I think Waid himself did a great job with the book. Though it's interesting, though, they kind of in a way where his muscle memory in his hands, basically, he can still cast magic, except that he lost muscle memory in his hands. Basically, he's trying to reteach himself how to do magic. And eventually he does. And he basically just, he's still Sorcerer Supreme, but he's also a surgeon again. Yep. He goes back to being a doctor for the first time since the 1960s. So it took Marvel Comics, it took them over 50 years. Now, this was something that Stan Lee and Steve Ditko did to the character when the character was first created, where a car crash basically damaged his hands beyond repair, where they're constantly in pain. Though with magic, it basically eases the pain, per se. But why the heck? My only guess is the reason why they decided to do it now, because both creators have since passed away. I'm sure that Marvel would probably want to do this for some time, just undo this little thing from his hands. But Steve Ditko probably was not on good terms with Marvel Comics, but Stan Lee was. I'm sure they probably got a blessing from Stan Lee's family to do this, possibly, because even this, Steve Ditko technically is the one who, according to Stan Lee, created Doctor Strange. But he did basically write a lot of the stories for the character, and I'm sure they probably got permission from his family to do this, because I'm sure Doctor Strange is one of those characters who is heavily protected by his creator's family. Stan Lee, of course. Well, Steve Ditko didn't have much family, so they could probably care less. Despite the fact he's a really good artist and creates some good characters. Doctor Strange is one of her favorite characters that I've read about. I've read every single Doctor Strange comic ever released. Well, it took me a long time to do it, and I've done it over the course of the past 15 years. Well, I've read comics since 2004. You're thinking, really? 2004? 17 years? Yep. Though this was technically not one of the first comics I picked up. It was one of the handful I picked up, basically, started reading. I mean, the first two series I was reading was Amazing Spider-Man and the X-Men. But I got eventually reading every single Marvel comic book ever published. And as of currently, I've read like a lot of the Marvel comics. Basically, I'm up to date with a lot of the ones they publish right now. Because there are a lot of like online, individual issues, or in the case of this, a trade paperback. Yes. But Doctor Strange, awesome character. And I can't wait to discuss the final trade that collects the most recent run. Okay? So yeah, that's it for Circle Review. Stay tuned later on today for my reviews for Yashihime Princess Half Demon and the Hidden Dungeon Only I Can Enter. Okay? Next video. Bye.